These are the people that help me, and they can definitely help you guys too, so please check them all out. Hey people, I am back again with another review. Pretty quick on the heels of my review of the Frozen Sonic Mini, which is an amazing little machine. If you didn't watch my review of the Frozen Sonic Mini, go watch it now, and I'm going to update it here. They are now selling it with the metal vat. One of my big knocks on it was that it didn't have a metal vat. Frozen got enough complaints, they're actually adding the metal vat, takes that printer up a notch. But anyway, what I'm here to talk about today is the new Anycubic Photon Zero. So this is a super entry-level beginner resin printer. Obviously it's tough for anything to be called a beginner resin printer because you need to know a lot of stuff to do resin printing and have all the safety equipment, but it's an entry-level resin printer. It is right now $169 on the Anycubic site, and I didn't see it, but I heard, and I wish I had seen this, I heard that there was a coupon or a rebate code or whatever that allowed you to get it for a limited time for like $100, which is, when I'm finished with my review, you'll see, I believe that's insane. If you get this thing for $100, you know, just pick one up. But even at $169, it's very interesting. So let's talk about, like I did with my mini review, I'll start off with the negatives of this. So here is the build plate from my Pics X1, standard size build plate. Like 150 by 68 by whatever, 180. Anyway, here is the build plate for the new Anycubic Photon Zero. Okay, you guys hopefully can clearly see this build plate next to this build plate, kind of tiny. So this, I mean, the complaint about resin printers in general, right, is that the build area is too small on the normal size resin printers. And then this one is, take a look, tiny. But now you're also talking about you're getting this machine for $169. So on this tiny build plate, you can fit, and these figures are 38 millimeters tall. So with support, you can easily get 4 figures on here, or at least 3 and their weapons. If they're modular, like some of these are modular, you can fit 3 figures and their weapons on. What you can't do, since we're talking the negatives, you can't do any of the bigger, you can't do any of the huge monsters that you could print on this build plate, won't fit on this build plate. So this is primarily for someone, and I see a lot of people post on the forums that just want to do minis, like player characters, maybe NPCs. They're not looking at doing a dragon, in 10 parts on a bigger build plate like this. They'll just do that on FDM, or they'll buy it separately or whatever. So, in our hobby area, this printer to me, because I don't care about engineering applications, this printer to me is for people who want to print, figures that are anywhere, up to say 40 to 50 millimeters tall will fit on here, no problem. Bigger than that, I think, that you don't want this printer. But again, for people I see who are on a budget and say, hey, I don't want to drop, $280 for a Photon or a Mars. I don't want to drop, $360 for an Pics X1. I don't care how good it is, then you want to print minis for your game, and you don't mind having a smaller build plate because you're not a merchant, you're not printing hundreds of figures anyway. This allows you to print, anywhere from 2 to 4 figures at once. And again, if it's all for player characters, small and medium monsters, NPCs, then this machine will handle it. One of the things this has that the Frozen Sonic Mini didn't have, which I complained about in that video, if any of you watch it, this actually has a sloped top to the build plate, so resin won't pool up on here. It drips off like it should. That's a thoughtful design thing they did. The Z-axis is super stable, and they have a parallel LED array underneath, which means you get more even light distribution. Theoretically, it leads to better details on your prints. So let's go to the other knock on this. And again, we're talking about a $169 or cheaper printer, so think about this. The other big knock on this, and here's some of the test prints I did, which I'm going to have very high-res photos showing up of these, and compared to my really good printers. This has an even lower resolution stated than the Frozen Sonic Mini, and you can actually see it. Like if I hold this picture, if I hold one of these figures up, and that little squeak was one of my kids opening the door, realizing I'm making a video and backing out. So if I hold this up in the sunlight, you can see layer lines on it. because it's a lower resolution than, say, the Pics X1 or even the Frozen Sonic Mini. But let's be honest, even on my Pics X1, if you hold it up in the sunlight, you can see tiny little layer lines. I mean, you can see layer lines on resin prints. We always say there's no layer lines. There are. On this machine, this cheaper machine with a lower resolution LCD screen, the layer lines are a little more pronounced. And I'm not talking, you're going to see high-res photos in a few minutes. I'm not talking like FDM pronounced. I'm talking just a little more pronounced than on, a higher-end budget printer. And to the naked eye, again, holding up in sunlight, I can always see layer lines on any print. But just naked eye, like here, I can't see the layer lines at all. I think from more than a foot away, you can't see them. And I'm also going to have a picture. I haven't done it yet, but I'm going to add it into the video. I'm going to prime it and then dry brush it to see if I can highlight the lines, to see if I can make them very visible to see. And I'll do that with a print off like my Pics X1 as well, so we can see the difference. But I was shocked that this tiny little machine for 169 bucks actually caught most of the detail on these figures. And if you're not, say, a competition level painter, I don't think there's any way you're even going to notice the layer lines that you can see on these. Like I said, it's way less than FDM, not even close. It's very close to my other resin printers actually, so it's tiny little bit more visible layer lines, but not much. And I was actually surprised when I saw what the resolution was. I actually thought the printer was going to come out much worse. And so I was actually very pleasantly surprised. Now, that's twice this week I've been surprised. Once by the Sonic Mini, which had a lower resolution than my other printers, but printed better. And now by this, which I'm not going to say prints better, but it's pretty comparable, which is shocking to me at 169 bucks. So this was really surprising to me. I'm not exactly sure what LCD screen they have in there. I don't think it's the new mono screen, because this is not curing in 2.5 seconds like the Sonic Mini, but it is curing a little faster than my Pics X1, which is the fastest curing of the under $500 machines. So on my Pics X1 with this resin, it's 6.5 seconds per normal layer line. On this Photon Zero, I was able to get away easily with 6 seconds per layer line. And in fact, I should have tested 5.5. I didn't even test it because the results just happened to come out so good at 6 seconds, which was my second test. First I did 6.5, came out pretty nice, but I thought let me go down, went down to 6, and it came out, I think, is about as good as it can come out. So I'll test 5.5 later as well, but I'm really shocked and surprised just how well these did come out. And I don't want to waste too much of your time. The machine is built well. The vat, I actually, believe it or not, I couldn't tell if the vat was a very lightweight plastic, very lightweight metal vat, or an extremely high quality plastic. It seems way better to me than the Sonic Mini vat, which is being replaced by metal, so that doesn't matter anymore. But the vat doesn't look like it's going to crack or break, or all the reports we've had, of plastic vats not working well. If this is plastic, it's extremely high grade, it seems to be, so I'm not worried about it. So, it's a tiny machine with the small print volume and lower resolution, but again, you're going to see the pictures in a minute and you can judge for yourself. But at the price point of $169 or cheaper on sale or with a coupon, for a lot of people who are on a tighter budget, but you want resin prints, or people who say, well, I want to print some PCs and some MPCs now and then, but I'm not printing 24/7. I don't want to invest that much money. When I want monsters, I just buy them, either Nolzers or the crappy pre-painted ones from WizKids or whatever. But if you're really just into making minis, this machine actually deserves a serious look. I'm a little surprised I'm saying that because, again, I always say you get what you pay for. So I was expecting to be not as good, not as high quality as the minis that I'm seeing off it. So again, pleasantly surprised. I think our industry is evolving, and some of the companies are now obviously branching out into new types of LCD screens, different resolutions, because this also has up to 16 times anti-aliasing, and I turned on 8 times for these, and it looks really good. You'll see in the pics. And I just think that the companies are now that they're more established and they have more money and they have more sales, they're actually maybe starting to invest a little more into the R&D and developing stuff more specifically for 3D printing. For everyone who doesn't know, all the LCD screens in all the early versions, like the Photon S, the Elegoo Mars, the Epax X1. The reason they're all the same size build plate, basically, these are phone screens. That's why they're also multicolor. That's why the new technology, the monochromatic screens, those are designed for 3D printing. So the LCD screens everyone was using before, just cheap and readily available, weren't designed specifically for 3D printing, and that's why they burn out so quickly, because the LCD, the liquid crystal substrate in those screens was not made to withstand, concentrated UV light and heat. So now that the industry is maturing, there's more of us buying printers, there's a lot more money in it, the companies can start really making better machines for 3D printing. So I think that's what we're seeing now, starting this year, 2020. We're seeing, I think, the evolution of our industry a little bit, where things are going to get just, for us, better and better. So I'm expecting to do more reviews of other new machines coming out soon, which are going to have the monochromatic screen, or again, whatever LCD screen is in this. They can make, maybe someone's going to come out with a machine they sell for 100, 120 bucks that does this. Maybe Anycubic will drop the price on this. I don't know. But at that price point, it becomes very interesting. Like, it's almost like a throwaway. You say, oh, I want to print some figures, but I don't want to invest a ton of money. I spend 120, maybe 100 bucks, 140 bucks, and get something that can pump out really nice looking figures. And again, I think if you're not like a professional artist, you paint these up, you really won't be able to tell the difference between these and something printed off a higher end machine. So I'm not saying this machine is for everyone. I think it's more for people who are on a budget, or people who aren't going to print a lot of stuff, just want the occasional, smaller figure. Print up some of their D&D stuff, goblins, skeletons, like everything, even ogres will fit on this. As long as it's not, like I said, I think once you go over like a 50 millimeter type figure and you have to add the supports, I think it's going to be really tough to fit on this build plate. But I'm impressed with the machine. I am impressed with it. It's, I won't personally be using it for a lot of my figures because I'm incredibly OCD about getting the, that's why I do my supports. I'm trying to get the best, the cleanest, most detailed print I can. But when I want some quick hitter stuff, maybe I'm printing a ton of, goblins or skeletons, and they don't have to be like perfect. I will be using this. And maybe for my ultimate player character models, where I imagine maybe I can paint better than I do, I want as perfect as possible. But if you're not an absolute perfectionist like me, these figures, like I'm saying, literally from a foot away, if I hold it up next to my other figures from my Epax or the Sonic Mini or whatever, you literally can't tell the difference. I'm really impressed with the quality on this little machine. And, just for the record, Anycubic's not paying me to say this. I have if they sell 1 million of these or 0 of these, doesn't help me. I don't make a penny, so I don't care. So I'm not, you're getting an honest review, my honest opinion. I do wish somehow they had a slightly bigger build plate, just what I'm used to with the other ones. But then again, if they did that, it wouldn't be 169 bucks or whatever you can get it for. It'd be probably like 229 or more. So it's a niche printer for a niche market, and for that market, because there's nothing. I think the cheapest thing I've seen that can print good is the Frozen Sonic Mini, but even that I think is $239. So this is a significant, $169, or like I said, someone online said there's a coupon code to get for $99. That would literally be insane. If you ever see this machine, I think for $129 or less, just get one. Can't hurt to have it. Even, I don't care if you have other resin printers like I do. You just keep it around. For that low price, you already have your resin, all your other equipment, so it's not like you have to expend for all that. So at that price, I would say just grab one. So that's it. What I'm going to look at, I'm going to show you the build plate in the Photon Zero slicer, so you can see exactly what you could fit on the plate. Then we'll just look at some pictures of things as they came off the build plate, and then these cleaned up. By cleaned up, I mean just support removal, nothing else. High-res photos compared to my highest detail printer right now, which is the Frozen Sonic Mini. So you're going to see side-by-side pictures. You guys can compare. You guys obviously will make up your own minds. Again, I don't care if people buy this printer, don't buy this printer, but I wanted to let you know, if you're on a tight budget, you're not printing too much, whatever it is, you should actually give this printer a solid look. I'm really pleasantly surprised by what's going on in the 3D printing industry. So that's it. Stay tuned for the pictures. Hope you like this video. Please like, please subscribe. Please check out my other review videos. I have a bunch of review videos. I think I'm biased. I did them. I think they're really good because they're honest. None of the companies are paying me. I don't get sponsored by any of the companies. So, and I have a lot of high-res pictures, so you can really see what you're getting. That's it. Thanks. Stay tuned and check out the pictures. And I will be back with another video hopefully soon. Take care, everyone. So the first picture here, this is off the Photon Zero. And you can see it's come out pretty good. And I'm going to show you a comparison pic next. But you can see this looks pretty good. You paint it up, it's going to look great. You can't really see the lines too much, and this is a pretty close-up high-res photo. Again, in the sunlight, it's easier to see for some reason. Maybe my flash blew them out a little. Okay, here on the right is off the Sonic Mini. This is the best print I've gotten of this figure. On the left is the Photon Zero. So you can see it looks just a little less crisp, a little less detailed. But again, this is a high-res photo, basically from 2-3 inches away. With your naked eye from this distance, not gonna be able to tell much of a difference, I don't think. So this was actually quite shocking because I thought with the lower resolution, I really wasn't expecting it to look this good. I mean, you can see like the fur around her chest is a little less defined. The buckle on the wrist is a little less defined. Everything's just a tiny little bit less defined from the Photon Zero, but pretty good. Okay, here is, again, this is just the Photon Zero. And again, this fishman, Sahugan, whatever you want to call him, he's looking pretty good. I'm going to zoom way in on this picture so you can see, if you got close enough, like almost under a microscope, you will see some lines. If you look just to the right, I believe to the top right of the top rightmost barnacle on the base there, I think you can see a little bit of lines there. Should be showing in the picture. Not much, but you can see. And if you look in the base, right in the very front center of the base, you see a couple little lines there that are visible. Now let's look at him compared to off the Mini. So the one off the Mini is on the right, and the Photon Zero is on the left. Again, looking pretty good, pretty similar. I think just like with the dwarf female we just looked at, I think just it's just a little less crisp, a tiny little bit less smooth maybe, but still it's picked up basically all of the detail, and it's looking pretty good. Again, pretty surprising to me how well it's coming out off this Photon Zero. So now we're going to look at another highly detailed figure, and this is off the Photon Zero. We're going to have a comparison pic coming up. I think this time in this pic it's clearest what the subtle differences are. So you'll see that in the comparison pic, the one off the Mini looks just a little clearer, a little sharper. And I think where you can see it best is in the cloak around her waist. I think you'll be able to see a tiny little bit of lines. I'm going to zoom in and we'll see if we can see the difference in the resolution. But again, just look at this figure. You're looking at a close-up high-res photo. You can't say you'd be upset to have this figure on your table. You really can't. So this is pretty exciting. And here we have the comparison. And I zoomed in here. If you look at the edge of her cloak, right by her left knee, you can see it's a little bit more jaggedy looking. If you look at the folds of the cloak, right in front of her, you can see that you can vaguely see little lines there. And if you look at the other one on the right, it just looks a lot smoother. But again, this is, how close are you with a high-res photo looking at this to see this? If you look overall at the detail, again, the one off the more expensive machine is a little sharper, a little clearer, but I really don't feel like the Photon Zero missed any of the detail. So here they are side by side, a little further back. And, it's not that easy to tell them apart, really. So, again, I'm pretty impressed with what's going on here. And then the next thing I want to look at is it, just show you how it comes off the build plate, because I wanted to show you that even you guys know I do funky little crazy ultra thin, ultra light supports, and I want to show that the Photon Zero was actually able to print all those out. So here it is, this same figure coming off the build plate, and you can see just how thin some of the supports I'm using there, and you can also see that they all printed out perfectly. So I think part of that is having the super stable Z-axis that they have, allows these super thin supports to actually print. Now I realized, this is when I realized I should try a 6-second exposure, so here it is. This is just off the Photon Zero,
and it is looking pretty good to me. I mean, look at the level of detail for something that's supposed to be low resolution. Doesn't look that low resolution to me. And like I said, you can see some lines if you get up close enough and you hold it up in the sun. But even here, you know, with this high res photo, it's tough to see. So let's zoom in a little closer and see where we can pick up those lines though. So if you look right on our cloak, right where the arrow is, the not the darker, the highlighted area right next to it, the raised area, I think you can see some tiny little lines there, and you can't see them off the Sonic Mini. So that's really, but just compare the detail in general, and this will give you make your own decision. You know, I do think off the more expensive machine, everything does look a tiny little bit sharper and clearer to me. But you look at the Photon Zero, it's not that far off either. And this is a $169 machine. It seems pretty crazy. Last picture, this is all off the Photon Zero, except the base of the one in the middle I had printed up earlier, so don't look at the base. But if you look at all three of these figures that I just showed before, you can see all three of them together, close up, high res, and they're all looking good. Like these three of these painted up on your table, like I said, you wouldn't be like, oh, I don't want these on my table. I mean, this is pretty exciting stuff for 169 bucks. And like I said, if there's a coupon or discount code wherever you can pick up somewhere that gets it even cheaper, then I think, you know, even just has like an extra backup printer, this makes a lot of sense. Now, the last thing I want to show you is let's look at the build plate in the slicer, just to give you an idea of what you can get on it. So these dwarves that I'm going to show on this build plate, these are not small dwarves, these are heroic scale. So these are each 30 millimeters tall to the top of the head. So the one with the mohawk, that's up like 38 millimeters. So you see, I can easily fit three of them, even with my complicated support structures. I can fit three of them on, plus all their weapons. So the build plate's small, but you know, it's pretty functional. So that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Please like, please subscribe. Thanks.